Hello and welcome to Decorative. My name is Mary and this is Wes. And tonight we're revisiting decorative wraps. Prior to this, our second or third episode, we were talking about it. Didn't have the visual aids in there, so I thought, it'd be great to go back in and showcase some people's wraps and talk a little bit about them and
do it better.
Do it better, yeah. I kind of wanted to talk about some of the rules and stuff that I have for wraps. Do you have any? I'd like to always ask you, even though we know his opinion.
Do I have any rules for wraps? Yeah, you don't let me do them.
No, the first one I asked you, what did you enjoy about wraps in general? And you basically were like, nothing, because I get bored with them.
I do. I can't sit there for the time that it takes to see the end result how I want to see it.
It is a very time-consuming art, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
It does take hours usually. I mean, the shortest time I've ever done a wrap, which was an open wrap, I think maybe I had 2 hours in it, and it wasn't perfect. But most of mine are closed wraps. You're looking at 8 to 10 for them, usually. Some of my open
Start
ones.
to actual finish, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'll do like an open chevron with endless on the one end.
Yeah, you
but
did that
I'm only doing 3 or 4 passes, and that's it.
Yeah, you did that for Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Todd has a bunch of those where with his Gamecock rods that you hate
But that's
doing 'cause
all
you're a
I'll
closer
do.
band.
I'm not tying off both sides. I'll tie off one side, and you're getting very minimal.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's got their own, first off, level of patience.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, what they think they can get money for.
Yep.
That's a big thing. And the third thing is also how much are you willing to put into it? Because when you start getting into those more elaborate closed wraps and putting patterns together and multi-axis.
You can't always justify the price at where your market is.
Oh, no, absolutely not. And not everybody has a market for them.
Mm-mm.
Not everybody has a place where the people are like, they want them. There's certain areas in the country that love them, certain areas that hate them. Certain areas that, you talk about a decorative wrap, they're going to try to throw you out the window. It's just, there's a bunch. I mean, and that's everything for rod building.
Mm-hmm.
There's the purists. There's, these different genres of people that believe in certain things on certain rods. Obviously, us with our surf rods and offshore and inshore and stuff, like those have the real estate to be able to put the decorative wraps on them. I mean, you're not really sacrificing function. As long as you're not wrapping into the bend, As soon as that rod starts to bend, you need to back it off like 2 or 3 inches, in my opinion. Just because you don't want to fight it, You don't want a chance at cracking or anything. But to each their own. We are talking about one of my favorite things tonight, decorative wraps. So over the years, go ahead.
You need to pump out a few more now that you've got to test something.
What are you talking about?
That new product you got to test.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You got to slow down on the grips and do some more wraps.
Yeah, I can't help it. People are ordering grips left and right, and it's amazing, and I love doing them and the challenges and stuff. But I'm starting to come to an end of the bulk of what's going on. Because that's the other thing. The decorative wrap courses came to a halt last year. I haven't had time to be able to do them. I've got one sitting in the editing folder. Like, it's in edit, and it'll be out as soon as I get caught up. And so I'm trying to get caught up, and hopefully that'll be the next month. That's the goal, to be caught up within the next 4 to 8 weeks. So anyway, so I have been doing wraps for 13 years now. Yeah, this is my 13th year of rod building. So I started in 2011.
Yeah.
Right? The math's right?
Yeah.
Check my math, because my math's always wrong. And over that time period, I have figured out a few things, and I started teaching them because I struggled to figure out how to do them. Super struggle. Now, granted, my backstory is hilarious because you were the fisherman. You and your grandpa were the ones building the rods. We started dating. You took me up to the rod shop. I was overwhelmed. I was like, holy crap, this is a thing, And you threw that book at me and said, you can figure this out. And I open it up, and I'm like, this is in a different language. I don't understand what any of this means, right? Didn't know what the butt was, didn't know what the tip was, didn't know what up, down, left, right, like none of the jargon made any sense to me.
Yeah.
When I finally figured it out, and it took a whole bunch of sitting down with rod makers and Clemens' book and Billy's decorative wraps book and tutorials I was finding online and stuff, like I had all of that stuff sitting, trying to bounce it off of each other, wrapping on, what was that? I had a baseball bat I was practicing on, like that handle of a baseball bat. you know?
No, it was,
Yeah, I had a little it was like one of the little ones my mom gave me, because she gave me that and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
some ridiculous cotton thread that she had. And
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure out how to make a pattern. And I wasn't trying spacing or anything. And then it came to trying to find out centers and the taper offset spacing. And I was getting frustrated because Mary doesn't math. And so you were having to sit down with me it could take us 45 minutes to get the centers done. Because the book was saying the math should equal this at the end, and my numbers never equaled it. And I couldn't figure out why they were never equaling it, because I was doing it exactly the same way it was saying to do it. Once you introduce that Excel file sheet, which if anybody wants that Excel file sheet, just send me an email at thedecorativestudio@gmail.com. I will email it to you. It's one that you found online. Yeah, it's been years ago.
It was prior to 2010, I think.
Somebody else had put it out there. If you're in the Southern Rod Builders group, I think it was Jim. I think Jim made an upgrade to it where you could just enter in your diameter and it would change it. Both of them are available in that group for free. Happy to send it to you. But once he found that sheet and said, hey, Mary, all you got to do is take a couple measurements and bam, there's your numbers. I was set. I was ready to go because I was
so much easier.
I was about ready to put it down because it was so frustrating trying to do it. Keeping all of that stuff in mind, once I finally figured out how to do them, I went, I know other people are struggling. I mean, granted, I know that not everybody comes into this with absolute zero background, singer, dancer, actor, coming into building fishing rods. But everybody was struggling. And Wes and I call him Pop, but Don was also struggling because they were like, we can do chevrons, we can do diamonds, but we can't figure anything else past that. Maybe you can. 2 months, and when I finally tried my first one, which was the maze. That wasn't the maze, but it's still here, and we still keep it. And I still show it off to people. Hey, this is my first wrap. And they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, yes, I suck too. You have to grow. You have to practice to get better.
Yep.
But over that time, once I started teaching people what I knew at that time, and I'll never call myself an expert at anything because I don't know everything about everything. And I'm still learning about stuff with wraps. Last year, I had an epiphany about how to figure out how to space multi-axis chevrons. It took me 10 years to figure it out, because everybody's like, well, what's the formula to do a 2-axis? Well, that's the, taper offset spacing. Well, what about a 4-axis? I don't know. Sit down and figure it out. Finally figured out the formula for how to do 2, 4, 8, and 16. And it was like, oh, well, because I was on a live talking about it and it clicked at that point in time. I'm like, I do know what that is. I just didn't actually realize I knew what the answer to that question was. Top 5 things that I will tell everybody, and I think they're the most important. I call them my rules. Take them with a grain of salt. Take your time on the layout. Guys, I know we want to just hurry up and get this thing started. We want to try to zoom through, get those first threads on there and keep wrapping because now we're excited about it. We're trying to get going and doing all this other stuff, but you got to put the first threads down for your layout, however many it are, because some patterns have 8 that go down, or typically it's 1 in each section. Stop. Cut the thread, stop, take your packing tool or your finger, whatever you're using to move the stuff around, and push all those cross points back onto your marks. You didn't sit there for 10 minutes getting your centers and getting the spacing and everything for you to jack it up when you put the first thread on. It's the bones of the wrap. If it's wrong, everything else is going to be wrong, and you're fighting with yourself the entire time to fix it, and you don't want to do that.
Or you could be like me and skip all that and get frustrated and never do them. Your choice.
Number 2, do not pack unless you have 5 threads down. I know I did it too. As soon as that second thread went down, I wanted to stop and I wanted to make sure it was all buddy-buddy with the other thread and push it together and make sure it was all clean and tight before I moved on. Trust the process, I promise you. You don't want to be jacking and having all these spaced threads way massive apart. You do want to have them somewhat close, but don't stress about having them touching. We always say it's decorative wraps, but we spend more time packing than we do wrapping, okay? But if you wait until you have 5 threads on and then you start your packing process, and pack in the order that you wrapped it, meaning don't go across the axis and try to pack it this way. Pack it as you wrapped the thread. So start here and just push this line all the way as it spirals up and then come back down. You may think it's taking you twice as long because you're spinning and packing, but that thread just will zoop, 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 because you're not fighting the cross points to snatch together, if you will. and you don't have the tension from the sides keeping it pulled out. I promise you, wait until you have 5 threads down in place. Now, I know some patterns, you only got 5 threads. You're going to have to jump and go wait till at least 3, okay? But I promise you, on majority of wraps, wait until you have 5 threads and then pack it. That last outside thread, that 5th thread, is not going to play nice with its other friends. It's going to want to jump out. It's fine. It's nothing you did wrong, as long as your tension was good. And I did throw one of Bill's. Bill did share, because I couldn't find any of mine, a in-progress packing picture. And Bill, don't take offense to anything I'm saying about it. It's just all things that will get fixed, because we're going to see the final, and you're going to understand why it looks the way it looks. Because a lot of people don't see that in-progress packing, and they think they're doing something wrong. No, absolutely not. Everything is exactly how it's supposed to be, I promise. Third thing, y'all, I am super passionate about this, because I walked this path too. Paths. Oh, we were speaking some Jedi. What's the animals? The big tall one, who's like the super calm but funny. You know what I'm talking about?
Chewbacca?
No, not Chewbacca. He looks like a lizard, but he walks on 2 feet.
Oh.
What is it?
I can't remember.
I don't watch Star Wars, but that's what I sounded like just then. Anyways.
I can't remember.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
He's
I can see him. See him right in front of me.
Not the Wookiee. The dinosaur looking one, but he's got that long face and he's always saying some silly stuff. Anyways, you can tell I don't watch the movies or TV or anything like that. Jar Jar Binks. Thank you, Lewis. Jar Jar Binks. That's what I just sounded like then.
Yes.
When I first started, we was broke. All right, broke as a joke. I didn't have money to go buy stuff, and I wasn't able to use power tools to go build the things that I needed, because I wasn't confident I could even put a 2x4 together to make a bench. You know what I'm saying? So when I was trying to do the straight lines and draw them down the blanks, I was trying to use the light glare over the bench, because I'd seen people say, yeah, you can use the light glare, not a big deal. If your light is not perfectly centered over your wrapper, it's not centered to begin with, and yeah, you can get behind it and move, but as you move, the light moves with you. So maybe you might line it up perfectly on the line one time, but you might come to the left thinking you're center, and it's not quite center, and now you've got to push everything back, and you're just doing extra work because you don't have a straight line to follow. Then I try to put tape down. I'd put masking tape or painter's tape and try to draw a straight edge with a China marker. We all know how I feel about China marker. And yeah, you get a straight line with the as it drags across with the choppiness of the whatever the wax that's coming off of it. And you pull the tape up. Okay, cool. You start, put your threads on there. You get to your second pass, you got no line anymore because you rubbed it off. And it's like, now what, you know? Enter in, Wes and his dad finally built a decorative wrap alignment jig for me. And at that time, I was doing insanely long wraps, things I tell you not to do. I was doing like 24 or 36 inch wraps.
Where is that one?
It's over there. It's with my collection of them. It's the big white one. But it was a 24-inch one, because I was doing very long ones. Do you need one? No. But, you know, it's just as easy to do 12, slide it down 12. But
Is it fun to have? Yes.
It's super fun, because now you don't have to slide it, and, you know, you only have to move it a little bit. But they drew that, or they made that for me, and they were like, surprise! And I was like, y'all, it was just like getting a diamond ring at that point in time. I was just like, yay! Like, I was so happy. They made me a jig. And sat down, do a wrap. Drew the straight line on it. Still working with China marker because I hadn't figured out paint pens yet at that point. It was so much easier. But then the next thing, Wes was the one that said, try a paint pen. And we had, I think it was a Craftsmark.
Something like that, yeah.
It had a real thick tip on it, but it stayed. And I didn't have to worry about it rubbing off. It didn't scuff off when I was packing. And as soon as I started with paint pens and drawing the straight line on the blank, my wraps got straighter immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably, 5 or 6 wraps in at that point in time?
Something like that, yeah.
Because at that point in time, it was good for me to do a wrap within like 3 months, because we were both working like 60, 80 hours a week at that point in time. So anytime I had, I'd sit down and work. It'd be like an hour or two, you know, put it down for a week, come back to it. I always tell people, if you ever got pulled over for sobriety test and they told you to walk a straight line, is it easier to walk a straight line that's painted on the ground and follow, or is it easier to walk a straight line that your head is coming up with? I'm going to tell you it's easier to walk a straight line when you can see one. It's so much easier to follow a straight line that's going to stay there and not move than it is to try to imagine one or try to line up one or try to use the China marker. China markers, they've got their time and place. They are not for drawing straight lines for decorative wraps. Not to mention that they disappear.
You'd be better off using a pencil.
Yeah, and even that
Right.
will smudge. And then moving on from that crafts mark pen or crafts pen, or it's something that Michaels was selling. I think Hobby Lobby had it at one point in time. The tip was the same size as a permanent marker tip, like a normal one.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a bigger line. And anything with wraps, we got a couple millimeters off. You can still get a little bit of a wiggle on that straight line. And Mark was always telling us he uses a pencil. I can't use a pencil because I rub it off. But he uses a pencil because it's the finest point possible. So then it became a search trying to find the finest paint pen possible. And we entered into the Sharpie paint pens. Extra fine point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I still use to this day. And I know that we all have our limitations of what we can buy or what we can do, but I will promise you, if you're really serious about wraps, make you a jig, buy a jig from me, buy a jig from Mudhole whenever they come back in stock. Get one. Buy one on one of the buy and sell trades, because there's always people that are going out and they have them. Get a jig. It will make so much of a difference in your wraps just having a straight line to follow instead of imagining it or trying to line it up, okay? On the side point, Sharpie paint pens. I love my Sharpie paint pens, but I have a love-hate relationship with them, and y'all all that are around and have followed me and have listened to me talk about them understand exactly where I'm about to head with this conversation. They will explode, okay? Now, we have all been doing it wrong, myself included. Keep in mind, I've been selling these things for like 7 years, 7 years, somewhere between there, because I'm like, they're great, you should use them. During that time frame, I have gone through about 20 of them.
Or more.
Because they kept exploding. And they kept exploding because I was using them wrong. When you open them, they tell you to shake them, then to depress the point until the paint starts to flow, and then you're good to go. Now, the catch is, I always store my pens, I try to store them tip side down. 90% of the time, they're laying flat on the sides, and they don't always get capped back when they're supposed to. So the tips kind of get dried out. And when they would get dried out, what would I do? I'd pick it up, and I'd flood the tip. And once the tip's been flooded, there ain't no going back. You can't fix it. I would take the nibs out. I'd soak them in acetone. I'd soak them in water. I'd soak them in isopropyl. I'd put them back in. I get replacements. Pen is screwed from that point on. Can't fix it. And I kept having people telling me, it's busting on me. And I'm like, me too, man. There's got to be something we're doing wrong.
And you can't prime it the first time to the point where paint literally globs out of it. You have to watch how much you prime it.
You got to see that the tip starts to turn colors and stop depressing. All right. If your pen dries out, you are to sit down, watch a TV show, whatever, listen to a podcast, and scribble it until it comes back to life. All right. Now, if you're 5 minutes in and it's not coming back to life, take the nib out, try to clean it. Do not depress the tip again, okay? Because you've already got paint sitting behind whatever is dried out in the tip of it. Don't depress it again. If you depress it again, you're going to flood it. You're going to explode it. You're going to call me all kinds of names saying, Mary, you said this was great. I promise you, don't depress it. I opened a pen after I found this information and started telling people, don't depress it again. I have had this pen for 6 months, and I hadn't had any issues out of it until I started scribbling on EVA, and then it dried out and wouldn't work for me. So as long as you're using it on the blanks, you'll be fine. All right? My fourth rule is get some sort of packing tool. All right. I have a mechanic's pick that has a little handle on it, and it was one of the really sharp points, and I have sanded it down and rounded it. Well, wested. I'm not gonna say I did. Wested the initial sanding down, rounded it to a point, and that I've had that packing tool for
a decade.
Yeah, I've carried it around for a decade. I thought I lost it at this last show. And I about had a heart attack because I was like, I always stick it in my pocket because, like, mine obviously looks just like the one that everybody's selling, but mine's faded a little bit because I'm using it for so long. And so I'm very particular about my packing tool. I know I can make another one, but I need mine, And so I always stick it in my pocket. But that has been my favorite thing to pack with. I will say that we were using the burnishing kit, like the thread packer tools that Mudhole sells.
You talking about the yellow one?
No, not the yellow one. I'm talking about the burnishing kit. I'm talking about those black ones that had the straight edge. I was using their packing tools while I was at the show because mine was in somebody else's hands and I needed to pack some thread. The flat edge one, brilliant for packing multiple bands, moving stuff.
It acts like a fingernail.
It acts just like a fingernail. Just like a fingernail. Or I'm always saying, use your fingernail. Basically, find something that you can pack with. People have used all kinds of things. The little cuticle pushers people were using. There was somebody that was using a big pencil. There's some other people that have, made them out of the steel and have done all kinds of stuff to them. But you need a couple. You need one that's got like a straight edge and one that has a rounded point so that you can get in there and maneuver the individual threads and make them go where they're supposed to, and also have that blunt object to be able to push multiple threads together. The biggest thing is if you're going to use like anything that has metal on it, make sure you sand it down. And over time, any metal tool that we're using is going to sharpen between drops on the concrete and throwing it down on the bench, and also rubbing across the graphite blanks will
sharpen it.
It will eventually sharpen it. So getting some 220 sandpaper and just doing kind of like little circles on it and just buffing it out. It should not be able to scratch your skin, and you should be able to completely drag it across thread and the blank and it not scuff it. If you find anything that with the burr, get it off immediately because it will just slice right through threads. Last thing, have fun, okay? Yes, decorative wraps, when we're trying to follow a pattern, we want our end result to look like the pattern. That's usually the goal, especially when we're practicing first, because we're like, okay, I want to do this. I want to follow step A, B, C, and you want it to end up looking like what you started, But sometimes we end up making a mistake and we don't do the exact same steps in the same order that we did. Take note, because sometimes those accidents create some really cool looking wraps. And take notes if it screws up and you hate it, because all of those fails, I've got up in these cabinets, there's about 13 or 14 binders, notebooks, all this stuff where I've got every single wrap I've ever done, whether I kept it, cut it off. Every wrap is noted that I'll ever have. And that muscle memory, I know a lot of people are moving towards electronics, but I will tell you, muscle memory of writing it down and physically wrapping it makes your brain think twice about it. I don't retain much from my on the computer. And the other thing is, sometimes you're going to have to start over. And it took me the longest, and Wes will attest to this. I would start wrapping, and I'd be 6 hours into a wrap. I'm not even halfway through it. That's how long it was taking me, because I was like, imagine a cartoon, dripping sweat off the face, like nervous about cutting like the wrong bomb cord. Like that's how I was when I was wrapping. I was just like, I don't know if this is the side. And it took forever for my brain to register on the right side. I'm going the right side. I would be sitting there yapping to myself. He will tell you. Right, till I got to the other end. Left. Like the line can't move, but I'm still saying it because my brain needs to figure it out. And then I'm like, what side did I wrap on? And then I'm like, bottom left, and I was a stress ball. And so I'd be 6 hours into a wrap and I'd go, Wes, I messed up. This one's not right. And he's like, well, cut it off. And I'm like, I just spent 6 hours on it. Why would I cut it off? And he's like, because it's not right. And I'm like, but I can't. And he just happy-go-lucky. What would you do? What would you do? Just right in front of me. And I'm like, like, are you serious? I'd have to get up and leave. Don is back there just giggling and just laughing. I'd have to go walk downstairs, chill out outside for a minute, come back so I wouldn't punch my husband in the face, at that time boyfriend. And I was just like, why? And he's like, wasn't right. You got to start over. So I'd be kind of mad. I'd be big mad for about 30 minutes and sit down and start over again. And what's funny is I was so like that, and now I'll cut them off if they don't look right, And I got
get all the way done and go, I don't like
that. And everybody's like, and I'm like, it's not right, So if you can get over the fact that you put so much time into it, just look at every wrap. It's practice. We practice every wrap. We get better with every wrap. We figure out what we don't like with every wrap, and sometimes those wraps are going to end up being fails. And those fails are just your first attempt in learning. It's my favorite acronym. And don't be afraid to cut it off. I know. It sucks to put 6 hours into something, and you got to cut it off, and you feel defeated and deflated, and you're just, go have a beer, take a shot of whiskey or tequila, whatever, drink some ranch water, do whatever you got to do. Come back the next day and come in with all right, pick it apart in your head. What did you not like? What did you like? What did you want to change? Because this is the time. You're resetting at this point. Fix what you thought was wrong with it. If you loved how it was, go again. Try it again. Here's the kicker, guys. If your eyes start blurring out, if you're fine when you first sit down and your eyes start to blur out and you're like, ugh, don't kick it up to a stronger magnification and push through and try to finish it.
Walk away.
Don't do that. Walk away. Because I will tell you, when I first started these, 20/20 vision, I don't know what my vision is now, but I can tell you there's a massive difference in my eyesight. I do struggle to see things very close up depth without having the magnifiers on. So my eyes are either, one, very tired because my sleep schedule is on shuffle and I don't know where it's ever going to land, or two, I'm doing some long-term damage pushing through the blurred vision. Be safe. Keep your eyeballs. You're going to need them. That's really like my top 5. And I really don't want to spend like a ton of time talking about like my roles and my
because she will.
And we know Mary will sign off on this for the rest of the year and y'all will be like, I've got to go to bed. But decorative wraps are something that you don't even have to follow the status quo. You don't have to sit down and learn how to do a spider.
You don't have to do a damn pattern.
You don't have to do a pattern. You can do these freeform, these abstracts. I love an abstract wrap. If I want to throw down some color in a spot, but I don't have a whole lot of time to put into it, abstract wrap all day. I don't have any actual, we'll have to do a segment on abstract wraps later, but I don't have any pictures of it tonight. But you can do an abstract wrap in 5 minutes, guys. 5 minutes. And it looks awesome, you know, for the right theme. Some people don't really dig into the abstract kind of look, but it's options. And then there's the ones where people are just rapping and doing whatever they want to do. There's a couple in here tonight. There is no rhyme or reason to these patterns. They're just rapping to rap, and they look awesome. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got their own preference.
To the photos.
So we have photos tonight from Southern that we asked for. We still have 66 photos, great examples of all kinds of different wraps. And without any further ado, So this is Abby. Once again, Abby is a great contributor to the show. Big fan of her work, and actually got to meet her at ICAST, so that was pretty awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and say this is great wrap. I'm guessing at what these patterns are because everybody will do their wraps a little bit different and sometimes tweak where they're putting threads and stuff or change the shape and size, yada, yada, yada. And that can make the pattern look different than what they were going for. But I do believe that this one is a pointed star. This is what I would call like a neutral wrap, really nicely done with some golds and brown. Like, I mean, good looking wrap. So this is one that Abby just recently did. And she was doing a lot of experimenting with down there at the tie-off area where she was doing like a galaxy kind of thing. It ended up looking really cool. But this is just a chevron up here in her wrap. Just changing up the colors where she put them. And this is what is called an elongated chevron because it's based off of a 2-axis wrap. Okay. And she chose to close it. Do you have to close them every time? No, you don't. You can do whatever you want to with them. It's your wrap, your art, your rules. Another one of Abby's, it's more just a chevron. Why is there a zigzag on the seam?
Bands.
Because she was wrapping in bands. Now, she might not have been pulling 2 threads at the same time to create that band, but she wrapped that same side 2 times, which to the thread tells the wrap, hey, it's a band. So it has this little textured zigzag thing to it. Nothing wrong with that. That is just one of those things. If you do wrap where you wrap on one side, however many times you're putting that thread down and then go to the other side and put the thread down, you're going to have a zigzag and you're never going to have a fully like straight line kind of looking wrap. But I think the texture added to this wrap and I think it looks really cool.
Looks like a zipper.
It does look like a zipper. Another one of Abby's. This one is just a very pretty diamond. So Abby, there's quite a few of these tonight where you guys took side angles of your wraps and they look great. I can't tell what your pattern is. So it could be a diamond. It could be a chevron. I have no idea.
But could just be a barber pole.
The purple is a decorative wrap and the other one is a spiraled dragon scale. This is another one of Abby's. Chevron, elongated chevron. Probably the most popular wrap. Mm-hmm. That and diamonds is what I would say.
Well, aren't all wraps just chevrons and diamonds and different patterns?
They are all just, everything is a chevron. Diamond is 2 chevrons put together. And then a bunch of patterns are all chevrons slapped together. All right, so this is one of those wraps where I was saying she just kind of freelanced it. There is no, she's got it spaced evenly. Everything's done a certain way. But there is no actual pattern, okay? It's just bands of color wrapped together. I do believe she's got she's got olive branches.
Some type of olive branch.
One of the variations to it.
One of the J-Tobs.
The JTOB variations, because we don't know which ones are which. Another one, Abby's open chevron.
That's elongated too.
Yep. Anything, if you see a chevron that's on the top and bottom, it's automatically elongated, which is why they kind of have that stretch look to them. There is no way around it. You didn't do anything wrong. That's just how it is. You use taper offset spacing to do that one. Another one, Abby's. This is a diamond, I believe. The glare makes it hard to see the wrap. I can't tell if it's a diamond or if it's a maze. Might be a maze. Might be a diamond. The glare goes right down the middle where I'd be able to tell.
No, I can't.
This is why I like taking my pictures of decorative wraps without epoxy on them, because then you don't have that glare fighting you. All right, Bill Church. Very cool wrap. This is a diamond that also has an extra space, like box out with going into a diamond kind of close. Don't know the actual pattern. He probably just kind of made it up, to be honest. And once you start just kind of putting thread down and just playing around with it, you can just start adding boxes where you want to. Bill Goings. All right, so this is an out plus in, and he did it on a 4-axis. This is a lot of packing in this wrap. And this particular pattern is a little compressed, so it's not quite a square. We're looking more like a diamond shape to it.
I call that delongated.
Delongated. Diamond elongated. Another one of Bill's. Bill is a crazy individual who likes to slap patterns together. I wouldn't have thought to. So this one's fun with all the colors. It is a square and a split square combo. So the side pattern on this one, or maybe the top, I don't know how he laid it out, is just pixelated. Like, it's just boxes. All kinds of little boxes all over the place. Another one of Bill's. This is a 4-axis spider. I like this wrap. So for me personally, I love blue backgrounds, especially when you start throwing like silver and whites in it. And you guys will see in some of the photos I put in there of mine tonight. I think it just looks like ice, and it just, the silver gray kind of white just pops off of that blue really nicely. This is another one of Bill's. You have to zoom in on these to like really understand or get the feel for them. This one is an 8-axis, 8-color split square. And this is on a 3mm ultralight. Just want that to sink in for a minute. 3 millimeters. No, thank you. I don't want to do that. That is not fun.
They're not going to pay me enough to sit there and do that.
That's way, way tedious. I've done them on that small before. I haven't done them that small before, but I've done them small before. And applaud to you, Bill. I wouldn't sit there and do that. Another one of Bill Going. So this one's I think 8-axis scales. Scales to me is a very timeless pattern once you understand how to do it, but it's kind of very confusing whenever you first start learning how to do them. One side grows really fast, the other side grows single thread at a time, and sometimes can be an absolute nightmare to pack because you got one side trying to push the other ones out of the way. And this one is his 16-axis, 8-color fish scale that also glows. So there's this little pieces is acrylic that has the glow in it, but that's the 16-axis. So I want you guys to take note because the next one is the in progress one. Very clean, super straight lines. The way he wrapped this legit looks like fish scales. It's got the nice curves to it. It doesn't have that like kind of straight kind of angle kind of colored that happens sometimes. And this is why I was really happy he shared the in progress. So if you look at this, remember what we just looked at. I want you guys to kind of pick one line and just look at it from left to right. And this is in no way, shape, picking on Bill. This is exactly what my wraps look like. This is what majority of people I know that when they're doing them, this is what they look like. Unless they're super tedious whenever they're doing it. But you see how the center seams are kind of waving up and kind of waving down, waving up and waving down just a tad on each line. That is normal. That happens from packing. Okay? That is something that we go, that's fine. But as we get closer to the close, you'll start to run out of room on some of those lines versus other lines. And then what you have to do is you have to take the ones that are dipping down off your straight line and you have to push them back up, or the ones that are going up and you have to push them back down to straighten that line out, and then you'll open up a bunch of room. Okay? This is completely normal. I get a lot of people messaging me asking me, what did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. You just got to pack it. And some people get like, what do you mean? I am packing it. And I'm like, you got to pack it more. Like, this is in progress. This is what wraps look like. Okay? They're not pretty all the way through, because that's after 8 hours of work. Let's zoom in on one of these. That's what that wrap turned into. Straight lines, packed perfectly. This is just one of those things. Well, Bill said he took 8 hours to finish this one. So from that to the one we just saw, that's normal. That's a lot of axes. He did 16 on that, right? Yeah. The more axes you add, the more packing you add. Another one of Bill's. This is Bill's, what is this one? It's a 4-pointed star, 4 axes, and it glows in the dark. Did you know there's glow in the dark thread? And you can do this? Very, very cool. Oh, Brada D. Raps. Highly doubt that's actually his name, but that's the only one I know him by. This is one individual that is super good. I respect him. He's got a lot of attention to detail. He does a lot of shading. He does some crazy color combos, and his wraps always looks just so clean.
The contrast always looks good.
Contrast is always so good on them. And if I had to guess with these two patterns, obviously the second pattern is a diamond, but I'm going to guess that the other one is a St. John's curved, potentially. It looks like there's a lot more going on to it than that. Just a cool pattern. And one thing I will denote is that this wrap is 2 patterns put together, but the diamond was wrapped after that first pattern was put on there. And the only reason why I can tell that is because the bands of the diamond are wrapping around continuously, and there's no interruptions. So when you start venturing into 2 pattern wraps, you can absolutely do that. Just know your diamond is going to be striping the sides of your wraps. And I did it with my first ones. I did my first pattern, then I go back in with my second pattern.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good way to learn. Brian Ward, I believe this is a reverse chevron. It's very dark.
Looks like opposing chevrons.
Yeah, it's one chevron started going one way, one the other way.
With a solid in the middle.
This is so I know black backgrounds are like super classic, and it looks good. But if you want to highlight your work, you need to get it to stand out a little bit more.
Do it before epoxy.
If you do your pictures before epoxy, that thread work stands out so much better, because then you don't have to fight the glare going down the center. And that's
no matter what, there will always be a glare.
Yeah. Another one of Brian's. This, once again, you guys in your side views. It looks great. I love your side. I wish I knew what the top looked like. It's probably in the same reverse kind of opposing chevrons from how it looks like it's laid out.
Yeah.
Cayman Feller coming in with a very beautiful blue scales. The shading on this one is very nice. I like how he went from dark to light instead of what I normally recommend is light to dark. It kind of creates an alternate kind of at the end of it. It looks more fish-like, because usually the scales at the edges have a more kind of glimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Another one came in. I'm pretty sure that's a pointed star. That one and the flashy star, and there's a couple other ones, space star. They all kind of look similar, so it's kind of hard to tell. I like the purple highlight with the background. One thing here I will point out, if you start doing shading, and like I said, we'll get into it in a different episode. If you go from your lightest behind your pattern and then shade to the dark, it creates this automatic light that pops up behind your pattern, and it kind of makes the pattern like stand out more.
Mm-hmm.
Next few photos are Chris Stanton, and he's got some really awesome ones. That's a scales wrap. That's at least a 16 axis. It could be more.
Could be a 32.
That is a lot of little scales on that, and I would not have sat down to pack that, because I have tried a 32 axis scales before, and I quit halfway through it. But I was only like 30 year in wrapping, so that's probably why. Another one of Chris Stanton's. A lot of his, I was sitting down trying to look at the things and try to figure out what they were. I think it's a St. John's variation. I don't know, because he does very big patterns. But just know he does a lot of ice rods, and that's a penny sitting under that. And he's wrapped that and packed it. Like, just the... I don't know how you ice guys put wraps on there. Those flimsy little noodles, I'd lose my mind. Another one of Chris Stanton's. I'm not even going to guess what that pattern is. I don't know. It's so fat. It's so cute. Like, I love how, like, the size and what it looks like, but I can't tell what the shape's supposed to be, because he's changed I can tell he's changed the thread count for how it's supposed to be, so he gets a bigger pattern instead of it kind of sprawling across. Mm-hmm. It could be a St. John's variation. I don't know. All right, another one of Chris Stanton's. I don't know this pattern. Like, the way he's wrapped it, I can't recognize it, but it's cool. It's cute. Look, it kind of reminds me of watermelon a little bit, and I don't really know why. Maybe it's just because it's like the pink and green.
Pink and green.
Maybe. Another one of Chris Stanton's. I don't know what pattern that is. It's some sort of star something. Another one of Chris's. This is scales.
Looks like scales, but it looks like...
That looks more like a split diamond, because it's not curving.
Yeah. Or because it's so small, it scales and just never formed the curve.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. It's so tiny. It's so cute. It looks like fire. Another one of Chris Stanton's. Once again, I ain't got a clue what that pattern is because he took a picture of the side. I can tell you that whatever this pattern is, which may be a modified sparkler, has got a lot of packing in it. That one, another one of Chris Stanton's, is a scales. You can see the difference in it. It's curving on this one. But I think you might be right, Wes. I think the other one might have been scales too, because you can...
It's just not formed the actual curve yet.
This is fun if you guys ever want to try it, doing a scales wrap where you change the colors. So you get this fun mixture of like different colored scales where you've got some that are orange, some that are green, some that are a mix of both of them on the sides and stuff. And you get these patches. It looks very cool. Another scales. Once again, another mixed one. That's got me questioning. Yeah, that's scales. He's chose to do one axis different than the rest of them. I saw the box there and I thought, wait a minute, am I wrong? Another scales by Chris Stanton. I can't believe the amount of packing there that he is doing on these dang tiny little things. Lord almighty. Another one of Chris's. This, I believe, is a modified sparkler with the way that one's coming through. He's doing a lot of... You can definitely tell, just looking at the patterns, he's doing a lot of changing how the pattern forms to get it to have a big pattern. David Alexander, I was very happy he shared some of his work tonight. So this one's super fun. All right, the split grip back here. We've got probably, can't tell because it's the side. It's either a diamond or a chevron with a little random one in between to kind of break up the open space. And then the one over here on the right, I don't even know what he did, but it's super cool. I know that he was rotating between using white and black, and he's created this pixelated kind of, what am I looking at? Like tiger or something? Like it looks like a faux tiger almost. It's crazy.
I wouldn't have built it just because it says Roll Tide on it.
It's for his nephew or his son.
I don't care.
One of the two.
They wouldn't have got it from me.
This is Greg Thompson, looking like one of the star patterns. Can't tell. That's a lot of metallic in this wrap. I'm already like, I wouldn't have done this because it has so much metallic in it.
You just hate metallic.
I can't work with metallic. Me and metallic are like a bad relationship. Like, it's terrible. I bust it. It hates me. It does whatever it wants to do. Jamie Burrows with a very, very cool looking spider. I like the green background. So this is Jim Bowers. He's from Australia. And this is actually, he does a lot of his wraps like under guides and stuff. And so this is a maze. The biggest pattern there is a maze with some diamonds on the outside of it. Very cool. A lot of work. Multiple versions of his. The top one is definitely a normal maze. It's what you would normally see. I can't tell you what that fourth one is. It looks like a split box diamond maybe, but he's done some alternating a whole bunch of things, so I can't really tell. Then we've got a dragon scale, and then there's that also the wrap, the diamond with the maze at the bottom. Another one of Jim Bowers, the pretty little heart underneath the guide. Gems. This was a very, very nicely done spider. What's funny about this is I actually did one that's very similar to this a long time ago. We gave to Kevin Bratz. Kenny Corell. This is a snowflake, a very big snowflake, done in some really cool colors. And left open, too. So you can see in between the snowflakes, there's a little bit of like lines kind of running. He didn't quite close it all the way. And it looks pretty cool like that. So even though you did all that work, it's technically an open wrap still. Mark Fisher. Extremely nicely done American Eagle. Well, not American. Yeah, Eagle. Eagle. There's mine. Can you tell? You may have already guessed that was mine before I even told you it was mine. And I don't remember exactly what these two patterns were that I put together. I know that the diamond looking one that has those little itty bitty little black frames around it is a reverse spider. And the white going into the blue is one of the in and outs. So I slammed these two together and made this rainbow chaos is basically what I called it.
I call it the rainbow tree.
It was, and this was actually the second go around of me trying to do it because the first one was terrible and I cut it off. This is probably one of my
the wood duck.
All-time favorite. Yeah, it's the wood duck. All-time favorite wraps. I wrapped this for a challenge. I challenged people with that wood duck and said, hey, take any colors out of this, wrap it, and I did this one for it, and I actually really loved it. And I cut it off because it was for a challenge, but I kept the photos. And
now it's on a bracelet.
That one's on a bracelet, but then we had a customer say, "Hey, can I have it?" And I was like, "Actually, you know what? Nobody's bought it, has that one. I just cut it off for no reason, so sure, I'll redo it for you." So it actually got a home, and I was actually really happy that it got a home because it's a really pretty wrap, in my opinion. I really liked it. But it's a spider and it's a in and out is what it is, and I put a diamond at the close on the other side. One of my all-time favorite patterns, the Impossible Star. This one still makes me sick to my heart that is on a customer's rod.
Sitting in California somewhere.
Sitting in California, and I hope he's fishing the hell out of it. But like, I did this pattern before I was ready to do this pattern, but I pulled through it, and every time I see it, I'm just like, man, this is one of those ones I like regret giving away. Like, I would have wanted to keep it, and I know I could rewrap it, but I don't ever want to do the same thing twice. So I just stare at it and miss it. This one, probably not a lot of people have seen, but it's probably one of my favorite builds we ever did.
That's because it's not finished yet.
That one is finished. That's the prototype star that's on the Beast. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was the other one.
No, it's not the other one. Not yours. This is the one that went with the AB1 components and stuff. This is the Beast. Massive blank. This was so big. This is a 4-axis version of this prototype star. And normally...
And that blank's like... I want to say it was almost an inch right there.
It was huge. It was so big. This one, I had another builder actually ask me to wrap this one on here. And this is probably one of the classiest runs I've ever done in my life.
Mm-hmm.
This is a space star with a flare. And it's brown, white, gold, and red. But I was commissioned to wrap it for him because he couldn't do it and the customer wanted one. And it's one of those things where... Yes, you can do those crazy, add all those, combos together and have a bunch of colors in it and then and they look cool, right? But then you could do something that's really clean and simple and it be more striking and more appealing to more people like this one versus that rainbow one earlier. Some people are going to be like, oh yeah, that's cool, but I don't like it, And this one, everybody's been like, that's amazing. It's the first time I worked with gold and didn't bust it, but... To be honest, that whole section of gold is not gold. It's actually gold Madeira mixed in with actual gold. I cheated so I could pack it.
It does make it a little easier to alternate them.
Yeah,
like that.
I would put 2 things of Madeira to 1 thing of metallic gold, so it still would get the twinkle from it, but I could pack it and not worry about busting it. We know we had to put the sugar skull wrap in because that's just my all-time favorite wrap. And actually, this wrap is what started people actually realizing who I was, I think, because it went around all the groups and everybody was like, holy crap. And this was just one of those accidental mistakes. This was an N- out plus, I believe.
Happy accident.
It was a happy accident. It really was. First time I tried to wrap it, I realized that there was a hole in the blank, and so I had to fill it in with something. And the white diamond for the second pattern is what formed my all-time favorite wrap. It's so pretty. And this wrap is what started the Sugar Skull series. And I also do chevrons too, This is for a Marine. It was mimicking the dress blues, so I wrapped the guides in black, put some gold. They're nail studs, basically. They're basically flat on the sides of it and pulled a red thread straight down through it. That's the other Sugar Skull. Same pattern, skinnier blank. Matched it up to her. I had to throw her in there. This is a... Snowflake with a diamond. This is actually one of the wraps that I teach. So if you want to know how to do this wrap specifically, I have a course on it at threadcentral.net. It is the snowflake and diamond combo. And I really went kind of crazy with the color scheme on this one. But instead of just doing the colors, I wanted to outline each color with black, which is why you see all that separation. Really fun wrap, in my opinion. And mixing a snowflake with a diamond creates a half snowflake on the side. Fun fact. Out plus. I have a course on that one too if you're interested. This is one of my favorite ones. It's basically a spider that has an extra box out at the end of it. These wraps in particular close really fast when you understand what to do with them. And they actually make it so much easier and less time consuming for you to close a wrap because you have extra boxes to close. Another one of mine. This one actually, if you're going to be on the Mudhole Live on Tuesday,
you can win this.
You can win this wrap. This is the Elegant Ghost. Jake asked me what the name of the rod was, and I was like, I don't know. I've been calling it the Ghost Wrap, and because you could hardly see the white scales, because
it's on a white blank.
It's on a white blank, and I did the super light charcoal shade pack, and I just put that little dot, like 2 passes of black in there to kind of break it up between that lightest gray and the white, knowing I was going to lose the white. And he was like, what do you want to call this rod? And I'm like, I don't know. Call it Elegant Ghost. And so y'all don't hate me for the name of it. I just was on the spot. This was group effort by myself, Thomas Snyder, and Mark Krause. Mark Krause and Thomas Snyder did the wooden handle on this and then sent me...
And the seat.
And sent me this to do the wrap for it. And so the wrap looks super complicated, but all that wrap is a diamond on a 8-axis that I split the color on all 4 sides. So, was it a pain to wrap? The only reason why I'm going to say yes is because I had to cut it each time I had to start instead of just continuing to spin.
Go up, cut. Go down, cut.
Go up, cut. Go down, cut. And do it again. Go up, cut. Like, it was annoying, but it looked really good, and I was really happy with the results that came from it. It was a pain to straighten, but overall, I felt that wrap matched up with the puzzle pieces. That was the hardest thing to do, was to match puzzle pieces on that one. So this is another one. Don't ask me what these 2 patterns are. I know one of them's a St. John's. I don't know what that second pattern was, because I went a little nuts with the layout on this thing. But, to be fair, this is not a normal size rod. This is part of my little demo sticks. Originally, I was wrapping it because it was part of my camera setup, so it's 3/4 inch PVC. So this isn't normal spacing or size that you could do on a normal rod, unless you're wrapping broomsticks. But yeah, this ended up being, I carry it around with me just as a demo now, but it's really fun. It could work for a pool cue if you get into wrapping those. This is a 4-axis 3D star.
Pattern.
3D star. And even though it looks like it has the little 4-star pattern in it, that was actually just the background that formed from the 4-axis 3D star.
That was on a bass rod.
Nope, that was not on a bass rod. That was on the green fighting rod that was for the gent on the pier. You had the green and gray grips.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I cut that wrap off because I did a 2-axis first. I was like, that is hideous. And so I did a 4-axis and hated life because it upped all my packing time. 4-axis pinwheel. This one in particular, this is a side photo that you're seeing. Actually, no, it's not. That's the top. This guy, for this one, he wanted to blend like the USA mixed in with his Irish background.
That one was a bass rod.
That was the bass rod. And Don painted the real seat and did this really awesome flag that was like, went from American to blending into like it was
the Irish flag.
Yeah, it was so cool.
It looked really good.
Yeah, it was
Wish
cool.
we had more pictures of it.
We have only like one picture of it, and it's the crappiest photo we ever taken. We took it inside on top of that old toy box that we had. And I was like, what the hell were we thinking? Prime example of the blue, gray, and silver, and also another great example of sometimes
too much is too much. Too much is too much.
Now, the only reason why I wrapped this one is because this guy absolutely begged for me to. And I told him you're blank, because I believe this is a bass guy.
No, it was an inshore saltwater rod, but still too
very,
small.
very tiny. This one was the size of a Sharpie.
Yeah.
I told him it was going to be too much for blank. You weren't really going to be able to see what the pattern was. You were going to see a whole bunch of colors. Because if we look at it, wait, let me zoom out. Can you tell what that is? It just looks like a whole bunch of colors thrown on there. But that's how you would typically see it if it was,
and that thing's like 12 inches long, too.
Across the pier. But this was actually the same pattern that the rainbow one is. So, like, it's a reverse spider mixed with one of the in and outs, but it's too much. Cool, but too much. Like, this is one time that I argued with the customer all day long, and
the customer won.
The customer won, and I said, all right, fine. Elsa, she is another impossible star, and she is the only one that I have successfully put metallic thread in and didn't bust it the entire time. And I am happy to inform you guys that Jillian and her family went camping, and Alice has caught her 2 fish so far. So I do make functioning art. Mike Osborne, he just entered this into the Rod Forge building challenge. So this is a decorative wrap over top of a tiger, and it's just a little cross wrap. Like, it's not even quite a chevron, just a whoop, up and down.
Do that again.
Whoop.
God, what is that girl's name?
You talking about from Big Bang? Big Bang?
Who?
Oh, you made me forget now. It's Sheldon's girl.
Amy.
Yeah. All right. I don't know why, but I started going, Calm it down.
I'm definitely watching Big Bang later.
You got a podcast. All right, Rob Starzek. All right. I can't. I don't know what this pattern is,
but I dig it.
But I dig it, and I dig how he takes his photos, like just all over top of the Madeira thread spools. Like it just is. That's a cover photo kind of thing, you know. Another one of Rob Starzik's. That's a 4-point star mixed with something, but I can't tell what it's mixed with. It looks like it just has an extra box, but very cool. Another one of Rob's. I love this wrap. I don't know what the heck he did. I can't tell what pattern that is. I know he did a bunch of splits, so it's just an awesome pattern. And another great kind of cover photo with all the thread underneath of it.
Good advertisement for Pro Wrap.
Right? Pro Wrap. Boop, boop. But obviously I like the super bright wraps anyway, so I was immediately drawn to this one. And I love that he did the kind of black and white technique to pop it off with the colors, because that works great. And our last photo of the night, this is the very good cover photo. Like, that's a cover photo with all the spools and stuff underneath of it. But another one of Rob's. Can't tell the pattern because it's very dark, but it looks really good.
I'd like to see more of his photos before epoxy.
Before epoxy, yeah. That way it doesn't have the darkening so much. But, these are all just great examples of wraps. I mean, everybody's got their own style. Everybody's got their own techniques. They've got their own twist on how they do things. And nobody's wrong. See, that's the great thing about it. Like, even if this is what kills me. I get a lot of people that come to me and they're like, I can't get the last 4 threads in it. And I'm like, did you straighten it? Yeah, everything's packed as tight as it is. It's straightened, but I can't get that last pass in. And I was like, show it to me. Send me a picture, and I'm like, why do you need to get 4 more threads in it? Well, we got to finish the pass. No, you don't. And they're like, what do you mean? I got to finish the pass. No, you don't.
You don't.
But I've got 4 threads left. And I'm like, you
Doesn't
don't
matter.
have to finish the pass. Like, if your wrap is straight and your wrap is packed, and it is, I'm looking at it right now. Everything looks fine. I wouldn't change anything about it. Forget those 4 threads. Call it a day. But I didn't finish the sequence. Hey.
So what?
Guess what? There is this term that we call cheating the close, and you just did it. You didn't have to put that last 3, 4, 5 threads in there. I do it all the time. There is not a single wrap that I have ever had work through my entire passes. Sometimes my very last pass is supposed to have 9 threads in it. I got room for 1. 1. Done. Spend 2 hours packing it and straightening it, but I'm not going to get any more thread in there. It's just not going to happen. So you don't have to always run through the sequence. So if you get to, I'm supposed to have 9 threads here, but I've only got room for 2.
Do 2.
You're fine. As I tell everybody else, if anybody's going to look at your wraps and they're going to try to count your threads, they're not your friend, and they don't need to be doing it. Then you're not my friend, and you don't need to be doing it.
Exactly. That's why I don't.
But if you have to cheat the close, you got to cheat the close. It's not going to change how that pattern works, because by the time that you get to that section of it, your pattern has formed. So if you can't get those last 4 or 5 threads in there, and your wrap is completely straight, it's packed as tight as you can get it, and there's nothing else that you can do to fix it, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Cheat the close. Call it a day and thank yourself you didn't have to do another 9 threads and then pack it again, It's art at the end of the day, and you're up to the individual person. It's the reason why it's really hard to judge somebody else's wraps. Like, some people come to me and they're like, what do you think of the colors? And I'm like, what did you, what was inspiring to you? Like, is this based off of a theme, or is this you just throwing down colors? Because I don't always like everybody else's color combinations, and I know for a fact that y'all don't always like my color combinations, but I like them, and that's all that matters. If you are loving your wrap and everything's being executed 100%, and there's nothing physically wrong with it, like it's not curving all over the place, it's not open gaps in places like that, like it's technically correct, do what you want. I don't care if you throw black, brown, gray, and burgundy all in there together and you can't understand what you did. The only thing that is just pay attention to the highs and the lows, which we'll get into that more in a visual kind of video where I can kind of showcase how highlighting your pattern will help make it stand out versus putting darker colors behind dark patterns and making it kind of fade out and stuff. Contrast is everything with wraps. You want your pattern to stand out from your background, but your background has the most color in it, so it's going to dominate the entire thing. But if your pattern is your contrasting colors and is the bright color, if you will, or the bold color, the background will just harmonize with it, but still make it visual, if that makes sense. You don't want it to blend in and everything just kind of look like a muddled mess. unless that was what you're going for. And then congratulations, it's a beautiful muddled mess, you know? And I don't mean that offensively. I'm just saying it's your art. You know what I'm saying? What?
Beautiful muddled mess.
Mine was like the whole, when I did the, that blue one, I told you that was a muddled mess. Like there is no like trying to pinpoint what the actual pattern was. Like it looked like chaos. And I felt like a chaotic, crazy person when I got done with it because it was so tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't wait till 5 threads to pack. I had to pack every 2 threads. And that was driving me insane because I knew I was just up in my time. I probably had 10 hours in that little wrap.
Mm-hmm.
All because I had to pack every 2 hours, you know? And it's just, sometimes less is more. If you got a big canvas to work with, go crazy. If you want to practice and start putting patterns together, work on some PVC. Don't get 3/4 inch. Trust me, it takes a long time to wrap. Get the 1/2 inch. Get something a little bit smaller if you can. But practice on broken blanks. I don't recommend practicing on dowels because the wood fibers can grab the thread and it doesn't make it really easy to pack. And yes, you can go and put epoxy on there, but even after the epoxy's cured, it always behaves differently. You know, it's always like, so broken blanks, PVC for the win all day long. Practice on your own stuff. Just don't cut your blank whenever you cut it off. Always cut sideways. Don't cut down. We don't want to score the blanks and accidentally call failure because you were practicing. So, you know how I come up with color combos? I get on Pinterest. End of story. Pinterest, which comes from Google. So if you guys don't want to get into a whole hoarding app, which is, I got a hoarding app. You don't even want to know how many color schemes I've got stashed in that thing. We're reaching 900 at this point. And they're all different. They're all things I want to go and try to do one day. But you can go into Google and type in color schemes or color palettes. Thank you. And both of them are basically interchangeable, but some of them have different things. And let's say that your customer wants a red color palette, but is open to adding other colors. Red color palette. Type it in. Go to images. You're going to be bombarded with people that have already put all these awesome color palettes together. And then you just pick and choose. I always will grab 3 or 4. I usually give customers about 3. Send it to them. Which ones do you like? And I'll give them what I call a calm one, a crazy one, and
middle of the road
kind of thing. And all 3 of them are ones that I would enjoy wrapping. I don't let them pick. I don't allow people to come to me, I want a red, yellow, green wrap. Can we tweak it? And if they don't want to tweak it, I'm going to be like, we're going to have to talk about this because I'm not feeling those colors working together, you know? Or let me just trust me, you know, trust the process kind of thing. Once they pick it, we go from there. Great other places to get it other than Google. Nature. So my favorite wraps came from a wood duck. Looking at birds in general have really pretty colors. Nature photos, men's socks, men's ties, the Hawaiian t-shirts that the men have now. Look at this hat. Like, I mean, y'all have some of the craziest color schemes. We got that at iCast. Awesome hat. It's velvet. Wes loves it.
It is velvet. It feels amazing.
But they're all things like when I was down at Foley 2 years ago, one of the ladies that sat down beside me, she had on the coolest looking shirt. And I came in there with a couple boxes of thread, but I looked at her shirt and I said, we're going to wrap your shirt today. And she's like, what? And I'm like, we're going to take your colors, we're going to put it on the rod. And we wrapped her shirt on the rod. I get it from everywhere. Like, there's no other. I look at stuff and I look at the colors. Wes will catch me. I'll be walking around the store sometime and I'm like, and I'll just keep walking and he's like,
every time. Like, Jesus, what is she about to everywhere.
Do? But a lot of it gets on Pinterest because I'll get on Pinterest, and Pinterest is where you can take all of these. This is where it's the big winner, is you can create a little board, is what they're called, basically a file folder, and they're gonna be your color palettes, and then you can just dump so many color palettes into this board, and you never have to save them to your laptop or your phone. You don't have to screenshot them. It's just hoarded all in this little place, and it's not taking up any memory because it's all on Pinterest's internal thing. Pinterest is this. But they keep it all for you. And then I don't have 900 images saved on my phone or my hard drive or my computer, and it's going, I'm bogging down. I can't handle this, you know, because I'll use the color palettes. I will go through there when I'm doing random wraps or wraps for the the classes I teach, and I go pull color palettes from that folder, unless there's something I've seen recently that I'm like, I want to do that. So I get them from everywhere. I don't use the color wheel. I know that's a traditional way, but color wheel does work. I don't teach the color wheel because I don't do it, but it does work. But, for me, I like to pick color schemes that don't usually, you wouldn't think it would work together, and make them work. So now that we've seen all of these amazing different decorative wraps, and I've kind of gone on a couple talking sprees, let's look at the product of the night, which is, dun dun dun, the Tie Forged guide sets that are now available at Mudhole.
We've got 4 of these coming. 2 in spinning, 2 in casting. I'm a big fan of them because I've messed with and played with and done some of the Tie Forged guides.
That's usually what we use, actually.
Yeah, but you can get them in Duralite or Nanolite. The casting, you have selections of up to 6'6", up to 7'6", and then up to 9 foot. The spinning, you have Duralite, Nanolite. They both come black and polished stainless. Mm-hmm. But the spinning is based on your reel sizes. So 1,000 to 2,000 reel size, 2,500 to 3,500, and then 3,500 to 5,000 size. So basically, 90% of all the rods you're ever going to do, you could get these and know that this is going to work for what I need.
And if you need some extra runners, you can buy those separately too.
Yes.
So that's actually something that Mudhole just rolled out, last week, I believe?
Yep, but we're getting, like I said, 2 of the casting, 2 of the spinning, and they're going on Suka 2 builds with some of the MHX blanks.
We've got some, not my normal crazy chaos stuff coming in, more of the clean, classy, but with a little bit of Alice touch thrown on them coming in, or being built in the next few weeks. So I am very excited about that. Well, a big thank you to our sponsors, Foundation Outdoor Group. It has been an awesome journey around almost a year at this point working with them. October will be an entire
official
year for that. So we are gearing up to, watch the live video on Tuesday, the decorative guides, so that you guys had a chance to win a bunch of awesome prizes along with the rod I built. And if you don't know how to enter into that, I'm actually going to put the entries into the comments section on the podcast itself. And if you follow my business page, it's in the bio. You can just highlight it and click and paste it, and you can get an entry into it. You do have to be watching the video in order for you to win it. You can either watch it on Facebook Live, or you can watch it on YouTube as well. Both places.
But the entries are done on a separate webpage prior.
Which the entries is what my link is for.
Yes.
So, but that is 6:30 p.m. on August 27th, and it's Decorative Guides.
This Tuesday.
113th episode. Also want to thank you for inviting us down to teach again at the Advanced Custom Rod Building Classes. It's been great. It's been fun, and hopefully we can continue on the journey with them. And there will be some fun new things coming out that we're going to have to keep you on your toes about. It's not quite ready.
Some apply to decorative wraps. Actually, several
apply to decorative wraps. But we will let you know as soon as we know. Decorative wraps are awesome. They do take some practice. They do take some time. And if you can get a couple of books and kind of sit down and study, or even if you're not really one of those that wants to read it, you need to visually see it. I have that whole courses, probably 11 of them, I believe, that are on threadcentral.net. And they literally break it down step by step, walk you through how to do the wraps. There's only one where I tried to skip ahead on a few things, and it's the spider. And I'll have to go back and redo that one. But I walk you through how to do the spacing, how I do my shading. I give you thread count, so you can literally wrap it thread for thread. And that's how all of those courses are done. Plus the decorative wraps basics. There's some tying off wraps, the difference between fading and shading. It's everything that I have gained over the years put into a course form that you can buy and do it on your own time. And you have access to it for life. It's not like I'm going to pull it from you in 30 days and you have 30 days to figure it out. You can work it at your own pace, which is why I did it that way in course way. That way everybody gets busy. You know, we have our lives, things happen, work comes up. We just want to stay in the shop or stay watching TV for 2 weeks, catching up on binge watching episodes and stuff. Like, I get it. Life happens. You can do it in your own house at your own pace, and it's basically like hands-on instruction, but in video format. But when you sit down and practice anything, just go into it having fun. The minute that you get frustrated with it, the minute you start popping threads, the minute that you start getting blurry-eyed, Walk away. Take a break. I don't care if you go and leave your shop, or you go watch TV, or you go have a drink or smoke a cigarette. You go do something else. If you don't want to do anything else in the shop, or you want to switch, go work on grips. Go do guide layouts. Do something else, but take a break from the wrap, because that's when you start making mistakes. That's when you're going to really destroy it. And you're not going to be happy with yourself when you come in the next morning.
And then you're going to give up like me.
I know. And you were part of the reason why I started teaching it, because I knew people were getting so frustrated with the basic steps, because they were so hard to understand because of how things were worded in the books. I tried to teach it a simpler way, keeping in mind the newbie mentality of how I was struggling, how you were struggling, and all the people in Southern originally were struggling. And that is why I continue to keep teaching them, and will teach them until I can, So just go into it knowing, keep in mind those top 5 rules. They're not really rules, but they're kind of like my guidelines that I mentioned in the beginning. Have patience. And you may not ever want to go into a closed wrap. That's fine. Be an open wrap kind of kid. If you want to do closed wraps, get a little bit of patience, but find some sort of tool like the visual wrap where it's got the taper offset on it, or the Excel file I mentioned earlier. There's an app that's floating around that you can use that's for taper offset spacing. It makes it so much easier, because I can't explain the math to you. I'm not a math kid. I had to have him explain the math to me, and we'd get in fights.
She wouldn't listen.
Because it wasn't that I wouldn't listen. My brain couldn't understand where you weren't getting. Don't look at them like that. It was because I could not understand where you were getting the numbers. And you'd be like, it's because of this plus this. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And you're like, well, that's the reason. That's the only way I can explain it. And your black and white mentality versus the vibrant rainbow of Alice that's over here just wasn't meshing with that. So stop. Quit looking at them like,
the numbers
she's
don't
lying
lie.
through her teeth. I'm not lying through my teeth.
Numbers don't lie.
No, mathing is not mathing. But there's always some sort of tool out there. This is where we're getting with this, that you can find and utilize, and it will make your life better. And if you ever have questions about anything, feel free to contact me at thedecorativestudio@gmail.com, or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or Instagram. And you can follow along the journey that is decorative wraps and also rod building.
And if you need a break, go watch other episodes of Decorative.
Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. We hope y'all had awesome and learned a little bit and had fun during the process. And we will talk to you later. Bye.